Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, a think tank which campaigns for lower taxes has developed an app which puts local councils in the spotlight. The Taxpayers Alliance says its new app, which pulls together a different set of data on council spending, will help people in England see what's happened to their council tax bills over the past 20 years, or how much the head of their council is paid. Some local authorities have welcomed the idea, but not everyone is convinced it gives a full and fair picture. Ellie Price reports.
Ever thought, gosh, I wonder what the council tax history is in this borough? Or, what are councillors' allowances in this local authority? Now the answer is even easier to find out, apparently.
Hello, how are you? Nice to see you. So, how does this app work?
You go onto the app, pop your postcode in, and instantly 9 different reports come up that we've done over the last year or two. It really gives taxpayers lots of information, from the amount paid to staff, to the amount of government art that's on show, trade union office space, lots of different information that arms the taxpayer with the data that they need to hold their local government to account.
This is all information that is already available though, isn't it?
A lot of them make the data available. What they don't do is make it easy to digest for taxpayers. So I think the problem is that you'd have to go on, download the spreadsheets, download all the PDFs, try and look through them all to see the information that you need. So what we wanted to do was make it as simple as possible for taxpayers to be able to grab the data that they need instantly.
The Taxpayers Alliance say transparency and efficiency go hand in hand. They're particularly impressed with Hammersmith and Fulham, a Labour council whose leader seems to agree.
I think transparency does make for an efficient council, and the fact is we have had successive Labour and Conservative administrations who've taken council tax very seriously. The difference is, this year the government have told us that they fully expect us to put council tax up by 3.75%, and they've removed the incentive for freezing or cutting council tax. But we're still one of the handful of councils in the country who managed to freeze it. Last year we were the only council in London who managed to cut it, and the reason for that is we're taking a ruthless approach to stripping out waste and putting money back in people's pockets and rebuilding frontline services.
Hammersmith and Fulham councils say engagement with their residents is crucial. They recently launched a Disabled People's Commission, for example. This campaigner welcomes the efforts here, but warns judging any council on headline figures could be misleading.
If you're in a low council tax local authority, if behind that there's huge cuts and a desert of services, then a low council tax isn't the be-all and end-all of the information that local residents want to know.
The Local Government Association insists councils are the most efficient part of the public sector and say the new app is unnecessary because it replicates information that's already available. But if you do want to have a look, your TPA is ready for download today.
Ellie Price reporting there. I'm joined now by Dia Chakravarti, the political director of the Taxpayers Alliance, and the MP Tristram Hunt, who chairs the Labour Party's Committee on Local Government. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Dia, first of all, data on councillor allowances and certainly how much people get paid, I mean, that's out there already. So, I mean, you're not adding anything, are you, to the sum knowledge of constituents?
You'd have thought so, wouldn't you? Some councils are much better at putting their data out than others. It's also about how the data is presented. So our focus here was to make sure that it is presented in a way which is easily accessible, people can understand. I mean, spreadsheets are a beautiful thing, but if you get
You may say
dumped with all that data, it can be very difficult to navigate.
But it is true that they are, and they have an obligation to put that information out there, even if you are arguing it's slightly difficult to access. Is this not more a political point than it is actually a point about being easier and accessible for people?
I think it's a point about transparency, really. I mean, it is about every single council behaving in a way which makes it a lot easier for every single resident to access the sort of very basic information.
Well, what's not to like?
I'm all in favour of transparency, and I think using technology and technology platforms and apps to engage with local government and central government is brilliant. So I'm all for this technology. I think the app itself is a bit reductive because what you see is the salaries fine, the pension contributions fine. What you don't see, for example, is as it were, how much a council has invested in local parks, which has saved money in public health, how much a council has supported music lessons, which has transformed the life expectancies of young people. So you could be a lot more creative about how you think about local authority expenditure. So you can drive efficiencies, I'm all for that, but you could also think, well, we've got wonderful local authorities doing interesting, creative things. Why don't we have a bit of that as well as what the pension contribution?
Well, Dia, what do you say to that?
Well, it is an app it's a simple app that we created in-house.
It's one-sided.
All we're doing is getting the information out there. So Ellie, for example, your reporter, chose to go and speak to Hammersmith because with the information available to her, it seemed like a suitable
because they've reduced costs overall and managed to bring down council tax.
There is an ideological element because on one of your things is a link to government art fund. Now, lots of local authorities have local museums which are under terrible pressure at the moment in terms of allowing access to these great collections. And you link to an article which says that, oh, it's fine to have national galleries and national museums, but lots of people will be surprised local authorities have art. I think local authorities should have art. I think young people should go and see it. And what your app suggests is that this is a bit of a waste of money.
I think that is a bit coloured, really, because what that app or what that paper actually suggested was if, say, I don't know, Hammersmith has X number of artwork, which is people's property, there should be an onus on the council to make that available to the people. And that was the very basic point of that paper, that a lot of councils sit on a lot of art, which is wonderful, but we don't get to see it.
Why not have some nice
pictures?
Is that the reason?
Because was the point in that particular paper.
Why not have some nice pictures of that on your app? So you could go to Hammersmith and say, I want to see this wonderful mural, I want to see this wonderful tablet.
I don't like your taste in art.
That's a celebration of the cultural impact of local authorities in people's lives.
But that is it. This is the conversation that we're having. It is putting that information out there for the public to access.
Get more in there.
But
you need to do a bit more.
Get Tristram to do your app. Get Tristram to do the app.
Help us do it, Tristram. This was a very basic app to get a conversation started, because we do think that it is important that people can access this information, which, as you say, it should be out in the public anyway.
And I think it is there if you, as you say, if you try hard. But let's go back to Tristram's initial point, which is it's slightly one-sided. If you're not presenting a case of added value, if you are only presenting a list of figures, which is where your spreadsheet argument slightly falls down in the sense that it doesn't offer the full picture, because I presume the point of it is you want to see councils reduce their costs further. That's the sort of result.
We often find that councils just tend to forget that they are spending other people's money, that they are spending taxpayers' money.
And that's fair enough.
For example, if we looked at some place like Kent, for example, I think the council tax there has gone up almost every single year over the 20 years. I think there was one single tax cut. We know that the chief executive of that council earns the highest in this country of all council leaders. Not the chief executive, sorry, the council leaders, so the politician. No, but hang on a minute. This same council 2 years ago went on a fact-finding mission to Disneyland, spending 15,000 of taxpayers' money.
How is that going to enhance? How would that enhance the well-being of the local people?
If that informs how they use Dreamland in Margate to regenerate Margate and regenerate coastal resorts as a credible use of money, and it should be held to account, fine. But my point is this, that local authorities are spending 22% less today than they were in 2009-10. So I think they're very well aware, and actually it's communities like Stoke-on-Trent, hard-pressed local authorities, which have taken the biggest hit in terms of the austerity budget.
Hang on, dear. Increased council tax for 52% in real terms.
I'll let you come back, because they have said that they've been stripped to the bone, councils. But let me get your response, because surely you welcome something like this, which is all about transparency. People can make up their own mind, and as Dia said, this is about spending our money.
Now, I am a biased journalist. That's not a phrase you hear on the BBC very often.
It's a good thing for you to admit, yes.
I'm a biased journalist. The top of my site says, we are here to cut your bills and fight your corner. We are a pro-consumer. We don't put the business argument in stuff that we do when we write. I'm biased. I declare it. The Taxpayers Alliance is a biased organisation with a stated aim. It's not biased in an offensive state. You want to reduce the amount of taxpayers' money that is being spent. Now, as long as your app is clear about your bias and your stance and why you are doing it, and people read it within that context, then it will provide good, transparent information, and I support it. If it is being used and being seen as a neutral platform that isn't steering, then I think you've got the problem.
Have you got your stated aim on it?
Bias isn't bad, as long as it's declared.